Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Millennial Smart, and I'm bringing you the slop, the whole slop, and nothing but the slop. Gonna be gone all day. Gonna give you guys some content to hold you over. Obviously, if anything were to pop off really huge, I'll talk about it later on. But this should hopefully hold you over until tomorrow. More likely tomorrow night. We'll see how it goes. But the more and more I think about it, right, I still can't get out of my head all the bullshit that went down at AEW Revolution. And I still, in my mind, feasibly can't think of anything to combat John Cena's heel turn. You know, when I made that video like a week ago talking about how AEW really has no answer to Cena's heel turn, it was more so reflecting off of the fans, right, and their copium, because clearly they're trying to grasp at straws as far as what they feasibly believe can head up Cena's heel turn. But now that we're out of the weeds, right? We're out of the weeds of Revolution. We're going towards WrestleMania. I still have nothing feasible. And you know the funny part about it is? And honestly, this is not a bad thing necessarily. It just so happens to be the timing. Because typically WrestleMania isn't this late in the year. I can't remember the last time WrestleMania was this late. So we're talking about in the middle of April. Hell, growing up, I remember WrestleMania being sometimes in late March. Hell, even sometimes in the middle of March if you go right back to WrestleMania 20. You guys realize we have another AEW pay-per-view before we even get to WrestleMania, right? We still have Dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. And the thing is, we still feasibly don't have anything even remotely close to Cena's heel turn. Like, I'm not even asking for something to like actively be on par with Cena's heel turn, because that's just not feasible. I'm not stupid. I'm not living in La La Land. I'm not living in fantasy world. Even WWE themselves couldn't be able to cultivate anything on par with Cena's heel turn within this generation. That's how monumental it is. It's not glazing. It's just talking about historical points, right? It's just historical. To say anything otherwise within the wrestling context would be ahistorical. And then I would think you would have the glazing problem, right? Or at least the anti-John Cena narrative, which is your prerogative. I'm asking for something to at least actively compete, right? I'm not saying be a competitor. I said, bear with me. I'm asking for something to actively compete. Even WCW was still competing with WWE by 2000. It was no longer a competitor in the sense that it was not even in WWE's league in around 2000, but it was still actively competing. There was still an alternative out there, which again, supposed to be AEW's tagline, right? Supposed to be their identity. I look down the card and I can't even feasibly think of anything that they can put into a position currently right now that even remotely gets you gassed up to want to see, to at least hold you over until we get to WrestleMania. Like that should be your job right now. You should be doing things to hold people over to get to WrestleMania. Again, look at Starrcade 97 and the build up to that. People were more so caring about WCW at the time, but there was still enough going on in WWE where you were still at least, curious as to what was going on in WWE. You were curious with the development of D-Generation X. You were curious with Undertaker and who's this little brother of his that Paul Bearer has been blackmailing him with for the longest. You were curious about the chaos that Austin was causing in WWE at that moment. You know what I mean? There were certain things that at the very least, even though WWE couldn't feasibly go up against Sting in the NWO, they had no shot in 97. You were still curious about things that were going on in WWE, where you could see yourself actively tuning into WWE while being more excited for Starrcade 97. Hopefully WrestleMania doesn't turn out to be like Starrcade 97. Unfortunately, sound like AEW Revolution ended up being like Starrcade 97, but all the way down to the guy not wanting to put over the other guy in the correct manner. But my point being is, I'm looking and I'm trying to find that guy. I'm trying to find what could be the feud, right? And in my mind, all we got so far as 2 matches that most likely going into Dynasty, and they might not even do the second match at Dynasty, and the second match might end up being, for all I know, at Double or Nothing, which will be the smart approach, because I don't think you would I don't think it would be smart to want to do this match so close to WrestleMania, knowing that all the shine is going to be on that. But obviously, the first match is probably end up being Swerve Strickland versus Jon Moxley, right? Which it's the match that no one asked for. It's the match that no one really wants to see. If you did play your cards right, it would be intriguing enough to want to see Edge versus Christian for the World Heavyweight Championship. I've been campaigning for that match for like almost 2 years now. Edge and Christian for the World Championship. Edge and Christian for the World Championship. I've been wanting to see that for the longest. It adds a new dynamic that was different from their last feud. Gives them an excuse to feud again. You know, too bad the star power isn't there anymore for either guy. But at the same time, the name recognition is still there. If for anything else, again, not on par with Cena's heel turn. But it's something that's interesting, right? It's something to keep you interested. Well, they squandered that, so now we have to see Jon Moxley versus Swerve Strickland, and again, the match that no one asked for. Even the thought of that match makes me want to fucking yawn. And then you have, at least for the women, what it seems like, again, it'd be stupid to do right now, but you could probably talk about Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné, right? Toni clearly put Mariah May, you know, in her rear view, no pun intended. I can't think of anything else Mercedes has going on at the moment that would probably theoretically be the next thing that they're going to want to do, considering they're arguably the 2 most over women in the entire company, right? You know, the allure of champion versus champion is right there. But obviously, at least from my point of view, it'd be pretty fucking stupid to do a match like that, knowing that WrestleMania is around the corner, and it's gonna outshine it. It's gonna outshine it, take all the shine off of it right now. So, I mean, if I were them, I'd probably end up doing the match at Double or Nothing, at least in late May, where, you know, most people at that point, the aftermath for WrestleMania would have been like a month at that point as far as gone. I'd wait to Double or Nothing, but that's another match that they can do. But again, is that something that's really on par with Cena's heel turn? And I know I'm going to get some people in the comment section saying things, and it's probably going to typically be some of the AEW stands, maybe some of the centrist wrestling fans, the ones, you know, the fence post sitters, the milquetoast ones, the ones, I mean, can we all just enjoy pro wrestling, guys? Just enjoy pro wrestling. I'm not here to say that I'm an E-Drone, but AEW sucks. I'm not here to say that, you know, I'm an AEW tard, but the WWE sucks at the moment. Everybody sucks. I'm not going to take a position. Everybody sucks. You know, those kind of people right there. So let me just get them out of the way really, really quick also. No, I'm not here to suggest that AEW should go out of its way to actively compete with WWE, in the sense that they should look at John Cena's heel turn and they should think to themselves, okay, what can we throw at the wall to make sure we can actively compete with them? No, I'm not suggesting that, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that company in its own right should use itself as its benchmark, because that'd be fucking stupid. Because if AEW is going to use itself as its own benchmark, then they're going to be stuck in the same position that they're currently in right now. Because then that means they're going to be stuck in an echo chamber and they're only going to listen to themselves, which unfortunately is what they're doing at the moment already. But feasibly, I don't want to see them doing that. I want to see them grow. I want to see them expand. I mean, even more so than what they themselves think that they're currently doing at the moment in regards to expanding, which they're not. I hear more about AEW actually succeeding more than the company themselves. But all I'm suggesting is that you should, if for nothing else, take ownership, take pride in what you're putting out there. You're not actively competing with John Cena. Take that out of your mind. You're actively competing with the fans' interests. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense whatsoever? You're competing for the chance to take share away from WWE. You are never going to go out of your way to take away the identity of WWE, in the sense that what they're currently doing at the moment, you can ever usurp. But as I just mentioned, with the WWE WCW comparison in '87, what you want to do is focus on the fans' interests. What you want to do is still be able to actively take the eyes that are on the hotter product and make them understand that you're still here. Make them aware that you're here. So even though at the moment you can't actively compete with that storyline, fans know that you're here. You keep them on the hook. This storyline ends. They check out your company because you have them on the hook still. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe then you can get people to actively watch it. You know, I was talking to a friend. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, which kind of actually tempted me to post that community post about how right now I just don't like the state of pop culture currently at the moment within professional wrestling, as far as how the current trend of today literally lasts about 2 days and then we move on to the next thing, because we're just super impatient and we set up an environment where, unfortunately, our kids and future generations will never be able to creatively explore what they have to offer, because they're so busy lingering on the after effects of what we had, whether it's remixing, whether it's legacy acts, whether it's a part of the dying breed. You know, and I was like shooting shit back and forth with my homie in text messages talking about this situation. One of the things I thought of, and I know I'm going to get some disagreements on this, but I think it is significant enough to at least address. I truly believe, and they'll never do this, unfortunately, because again, Tony's mindset and the way that he thinks is very Meltzer-esque. But even then, though, even if that is your mindset, even if your mindset is the indie New Japan type of way of thinking, even New Japan Pro Wrestling, like for a decade, right, throughout the 2010s, it was two people that dominated throughout the 2010s, right? It was Tanahashi and it was Okada. Even they recognized that, okay, well, you know, we should have our brand circulating around one talent that can establish the identity of the company, so we can at least allow for something to be created in regards to an avenue that can prompt something huge, like a John Cena heel turn. You know why John Cena's heel turn is so extravagant and why it's so fucking huge? It's because we're not just talking about a regular wrestler turning heel. We're talking about the face of the company for the past 20 years turning heel. You could be patient and you could play that game, but this goes beyond that point. My point is that I think AEW has been around long enough, and honestly, they had their opportunity with Rhodes and CM Punk, but they've been around long enough where they should probably go out of their way to start circulating storylines around one superstar, and that one superstar should be the AEW World Champion. And the AEW World Champion should have linear storylines throughout the night where you establish them as the centerpiece of your company. So if for anything else, the storylines and the opportunities, you know where AEW's identity lie, right? Like, I don't know if it's unfortunately we live in an environment, and I'm not gonna pretend that I don't contribute it to that, but I don't know if we live unfortunately in an environment where AEW doesn't want to make a top talent because that top talent is afraid that everything is going to come on their shoulders as far as the criticism is considered. But that's when you find someone who's universally loved. They had to do it with Austin. They had to do it with Hogan. Hell, they had to do it with John Cena and Roman Reigns. Eventually they got to that point. My point being is you need a centerpiece. That's how you combat things like a John Cena heel turn in the future. You're not going to do it now. No way. Impossible. You have nothing going for you currently at the moment. But you need somebody in that centerpiece position to avoid a situation like this, or to at least be prepared for a situation like this. And they don't have that. They don't have that. Like I said, even going up to Starrcade 97, it was Shawn Michaels. Pretty clear. And we knew that Austin was on the rise and he was going to be that guy right behind Shawn Michaels. In fact, it wasn't just Shawn, it was Shawn and Bret. Then Bret left and it was Shawn. And while Shawn was there, he was preparing Austin. You can sit back and you can delude yourself and pretend that it's Swerve Strickland. Could be. Maybe. I don't see any pop culture ties that would make him in that kind of position, unless you want to argue he is a Shawn Michaels and a Bret Hart, and he's just something of a placeholder for the real person who's going to eventually be there, like Austin and Bret were for Stone Cold. That's an argument, but I'm talking about I need someone in that centerpiece position where they're going to be at the helm of the company going forward. You can argue a Will Ospreay, but really? He seems more like a Shawn Michaels and a Bret Hart than a Swerve Strickland, in my opinion. Hangman, same thing. They need to start preparing that guy. Sad part is, I'd argue that Wardlow fit that description perfectly fine in 2022 if you played your cards right. Unfortunately, you didn't do that. Would've, could've, should've, right? Would've, could've, should've. If dogs can fly, right? If dogs can fly. But they can't. I need to see something happening in that company. I need to see signs of life. I think, and I'll end it on this right here. I think with me, when it comes to the whole John Cena heel turn stuff, I think it's more of a test. It's more of a test to see AEW in the face of true adversity in regards to something like think about it in a Dragon Ball Z sense, where I love using them as a metaphor. Think about it in the sense where you had Goku, on a planet like Namek, and it's exploding. And he's fighting against the odds like Frieza, right? And he can only do so much in so little time with the planet exploding. What do you do in that situation where even though you have all this power, all this godlike power, right? What do you do knowing that the inevitable is about to happen and you're just standing there watching it happening around you, helpless, powerless? What do you do in that situation? What do you do to combat it? I want to see. I'm not sure if you're going to survive, but I want to see what you're willing to do to combat all that. Well, AEW's way of combating all that was Revolution last night, and I was not impressed. I was not impressed at all. Your garbage matches are only going to last for that night, especially being that it's AEW. You're going to do something to ruin all that anyways with the next garbage match. Every match is the best match of all time. fucking with that company, fucking with that fan base. Truly nothing stands out as the best moments of all time. It's the moments that's going to combat Cena. There's no match that you could possibly do to combat John Cena. It's the moments. It's the moments. And when you have that mindset that you're battling for the fans' interests, when you have that mindset, that mentality that you're going for those fans as far as combating what you feel you bring to the table to get them interested in your product, to take some eyeballs off of that product, even though that product is still going to be watched. That's what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, at the moment, they don't have anything. I want them to have something. I'd love for them to have something. I want to see them succeed. But they don't have anything. They simply don't. But you can let me know in the comment section below if you feel they have something. Maybe I'm missing the mark. I asked this last week when we talked about this, when we read that Mark's article about what he believed to be the top 5 things AEW can do to combat John Cena. But alright, don't let me stop you. Bring up some things. Fantasy book if you have to. But just make sure it's plausible. And make sure whatever you say, it's rooted in common sense. And the rooted thing in common sense could feasibly get people to want to tune into the product. And map it out for me if you can too. Don't just say it, map it out for me. Point A, point B, point C. Otherwise, empty words, empty vision. Might as well call yourself Tony Khan at that point. As always, my name is Devontae, aka Millennial Smart, and I'll be catching you guys later. Deuces, P. Ice.